So, Assassin's Creed Mirage is without a doubt one of the weirdest games in recent memory. Not because the concept doesn't make sense, not because the developer doesn't know what they're doing or has like a really weird history, though they sort of do, but primarily because of how they've gone about announcing it, showing it off, gameplay, all of this stuff. It's been very, very, very weird. What we know right now is that the game is coming some point this year. We know that it's supposed to be a return to form, and that's kind of it. We haven't seen gameplay. We've seen a cinematic trailer. We haven't seen what the actual minutia of the game looks like. They've said like they're focused on social stealth. They're focused on what made the franchise great to begin with, but we still don't really know much. So in this little breakdown with you guys, my goal is to discuss and figure out how much we actually know about Assassin's Creed Mirage and see if we can decipher anything here, and perhaps discover some more information that we didn't know before. To do it, we're going to investigate some different interviews. We're going to look at who is the creative director for this project. We're going to look at which studio is developing it. We're just going to kind of tear it apart and see if we can figure anything out about it as we go along, and we're going to have a good time doing it. Are you guys ready? Are you ready? Assassin's Creed Mirage. It's still not quite as good as
Assassin's Creed Valhalla.
the poor guy. He'll never live it down, and I'll make sure of it because it's so freaking funny. You see, Death of the Old Meat, you broke our thing. You're so generous. Look at this. I have to like rescale it because it's clipping out. Okay. So first things first, if we look at the Wikipedia page, we get a rough breakdown of key information that's important to us, such as the developer, the director, lead artist, the writers. That's less important to me for the sake of this conversation. And then we also get some broad notes. And the really useful thing is that we get this breakdown at the very bottom in the references section that links to all of the articles from which this information has been pulled. So if we're interested in like this little thing, like the discussion of real gambling, because you remember during the initial trailer, it said AO for adults only, which means you basically can't sell it like anywhere in the US in major retail stores. And then they claimed that that was not real. It was some mistake, which I still don't really know how the hell that happens. But you know, anyway, we'll talk about it. There's all sorts of insanity with this game, and it's not that like it's not that you can't have one weird thing happen. It's that you can't really have, well, let's just say once, it's like the old saying, once is an occurrence, twice is a coincidence, and 3 times is a pattern. With Mirage, there's like 6 or 7 really weird things about this game that start to get me really weirded out. And maybe it's all just coincidental. It's like a series of 6 coincidences. That starts to be a pattern. There's something weird going on that this game just attracts bizarre behavior from Ubisoft and the publisher and everything else. But maybe it's no big deal. But usually where there's smoke, there's fire. And there's a lot of really weird stuff with this. This game is apparently coming in the next 18 days. I don't think they've officially delayed it. I don't think, because it was supposed to come out in March, and I don't know. I think they might have changed the website due date or release date, but everybody said that it's coming later this year, but I don't know if they've ever officially announced it. If anybody in chat can search on Google real quick whether or not it's been officially delayed and find like an article on that, I would greatly appreciate it, because I have not seen the official delay, but maybe I just missed it. But as for rough gameplay description, as you see here, Mirage is an action-adventure stealth game intended to be reminiscent of older Assassin's Creed titles, being more linear and story-focused, reducing the number of role-playing elements present in recent installments of the series. In other words, they're going to probably go the route of like Assassin's Creed 2 and Assassin's Creed 1 and keep it simple like that. It's a pretty simple concept, makes sense, no biggie. I just read that the game is set principally in Baghdad, which is divided into 4 districts, but also features Alamut, the fortress headquarters of the Hidden Ones. Parkour, close quarter combat, and stealth are core elements of the gameplay. Mirage also marks the return of the black box assassination missions from Assassin's Creed Unity and Assassin's Creed Syndicate, in which players have to explore the environment to find different ways to reach and eliminate their targets. As a hidden one, Basim will have a large arsenal of weapons and tools at his disposal, including signature Assassin's Creed hidden blades and smoke bombs. You got a link for me? Awesome. So with this, it's relatively... The chat's going to catch up slowly, so I'll just sit there and wait for it. It's pretty straightforward. This is a difference in approach that we've heard of in recent months specifically, but it's been in the works for a while. Basically, what Ubisoft, I think, realized is that trying to have the one crazy successful game doesn't really work great. Like, hold on, let me pull out MS Paint. As I've shown this before, but the best way to do it is with MS Paint. MS Paint. There we go. So with this, as I've said before, the reason Xbox has been so happy. Do we have the MS Paint emoji? I think we do in chat. Yeah, here. Voila. We have an MS Paint specific emoji in the chat just for this. So. With this Xbox, the reason Game Pass has been going so well for them is because Game Pass makes the revenue. Like if we just say that this is our graph, we have this on the X, on the Y. This is the money. I need a Wacom tablet so bad. I need to just invest in it. We have this. This is time. Voila. And so as years go on, we see this. What we see with Microsoft is that their revenues kind of look like this. It's pretty steady. It's a smooth line and it goes up over time as more people sign up, but nothing too crazy. What PlayStation has been doing, for example, is something more like this, where they have some very varied months of revenue and a couple huge spikes when they have exclusives do very well. And then they might have, a major exclusive that does very well. And it kind of goes like this. So it's 2 fundamentally different approaches to revenue. One tries to hit the ball out of the park with these major $70 releases that come every once in a while. But when they come, people buy them at full price. And then you get crazy amounts of cash all of a sudden. But when you don't have major releases coming, you're not making very much at all compared to the steady flow of hundreds of millions of dollars coming from Game Pass, where people are paying each month regardless of whether you've had major releases or not, right? With Ubisoft, this blue is what they've been doing as well. They experimented with Ubisoft Plus, Ultra, Platinum, whatever the crap it's called nowadays. They change it like every other day. At least it seems that way. But they have not had a lot of success with their subscription model, which is why they've started bringing their games to Game Pass to try and bring it more closer to the screen line. But what I think they've realized is with games like Assassin's Creed Valhalla, you're talking about aiming for a big spike like this. And you'll remember Assassin's Creed Valhalla had a huge spike because it had the highest revenue of like any game in recent memory. That they had released. It's a very, very successful, very successful release for them in terms of, again, revenue, which, to be clear, just in case, anything gets twisted, revenue and profit are different. Revenue is just the money I take in. I can sell you this DualSense Edge controller. I'll sell you this for $200. But if I paid $200 for it, I had revenue of $200, but I had zero in profit because I sold it for you to you for the same amount that I paid for it. So I don't want to do that. I want to sell it for more, and then my revenue, if I sell it for $250, my revenue would be $250, but my profit's only $50, right? So with this chart, you do have to wonder what the overhead cost is, because this is just revenue. This isn't necessarily profit. If you have a game like, let's just say, this is like God of War, Ragnarok, and then let's say this one is, I don't know what we'd say. I'm struggling to think of PlayStation exclusives recently. Maybe we just say Spider-Man 2, and then let's say down here this was Forspoken. Okay, so with these, they make tons of money, but there's also expenses associated with it. So if we think of like the expenses running for PlayStation being the red line, with the games, if we just take like the expenses for developing this game and we slap it all at the same time the game comes out, you could see this, and the difference in profit is going to be this amount. They made some good money. But Forspoken, you know, it cost them a good amount of money to market that and make it, but they didn't make that money back. They lost a lot of money. And with Assassin's Creed Valhalla, what they're hoping for is to basically have a game that turns into this green line, because it just constantly makes them money as people play it for years. But it didn't really do that. What Valhalla did is it came out, huge spike, and then it trailed down and down and then plummeted. And now very few people are interested in it because it's kind of sucky. But their costs, you know, again, if we put the cost for development on launch day, just for sake of easy visualization of accounting, then you can see as they keep developing expansions and stuff and DLC, the expenses stay high, but it bottoms out and they start losing money. And I think this is what's happened in the last 2 years. They were hoping that this yellow line would stay up here with the green and it would be above their costs. And so yellow over the red, they'd continue making money and they'd be happy with all that profit. But yeah, exactly. Well, marketing is tied into that. Yeah. I'm assuming marketing is part of the red expense. But the point with all of it is simply that, like, it's not easy to just make a game like GTA Online that just prints money perpetually. It's actually kind of difficult. And you can't just make an Assassin's Creed game that is flooded with content and expect it to be a successful game. And I think they realized that even though Valhalla had an amazing amount of content, people got bored with it and gave up on it and stopped playing. And so then in turn, the game kind of died and most people have moved on. I know there's still a ton of people that play it. Most of them watch like JoeRaptor. If you ever are wondering how many people play it, just go to one of JoeRaptor's videos and he'll still regularly cover like, oh, new merch and new cosmetics in Valhalla. Those videos will still do like 60, 70,000 views. It's a lot of people still playing the game, right? So it's just fundamentally different than I think they expected it to be. So now what they're doing, all of this to say, they are shifting. Their goal is to shift from major quadruple A releases into smaller, easier to develop, quicker to develop experiences that target one single demographic and target them very, very well. And that, I think, is much preferred. Luke, thank you for the 2. Your trash bag outfit falls into that red line. Yeah, exactly. For those of you who haven't seen that, join our Discord. I posted the picture of a jumpsuit that Ubisoft sent me, which was extremely unflattering. So if you want to see that, go join our Discord. It's great. But basically, so like to make it clear, again, like let's just do this. If we have circles of players... Oh my God. If we have circles of players and we say these are like RPG fans, okay? I can't. What is happening? Am I having a stroke? RPG. Okay, these are fans who like RPGs. These are fans that like stealth. Stealth. I need to just get the Wacom tablet for real. Stealth games. These are people that like the parkour, okay? Parkour. It's weirdly difficult to write with a mouse. Oh, I can hold down right click and erase. Oh, who knew? Okay. So parkour stuff. These are people who like, maybe let's just say open worlds. Luke equals Michelangelo. Yeah, basically. Luke drawing butts as circles. Yeah, that does kind of look like a butt. I'll be real. I'm mature. So with this, there is a little bit of overlap. Like some people who like RPGs also like stealth, also like parkour. So some of these circles technically like should be overlapped a little bit, you know, into each other. That's phallic. But what Ubisoft has tried to do in recent years is they've tried to just make Assassin's Creed Valhalla.
Assassin's Creed Valhalla.
And they try to just encompass all of these groups with a massive game. The bigger this circle, the more expensive it is to develop and the longer it takes, right? But what they're doing now is they're making games like this gray one that target the stealth players or that target stealth and parkour. And then they make this red game that targets the RPG and open world players. And then maybe somebody likes parkour RPG and they can target this group with a separate game. So they're targeting more specific groups, excluding other groups of players and fans, but they're making smaller, leaner experiences that target specific groups while excluding others. Instead of trying to do this blue blob that tries to make everybody happy, because frankly, you can't make everybody happy. When you try to make everybody happy, you're a jack of all trades, master of none. And in large part, like this blue, ultimately, because you don't do the open world well, you don't do the stealth well, you don't do the RPG well, you don't do the parkour well, because you can't do everything well. It's like Todd Howard said, you can't do everything, but you can do anything in game development. What they choose to do, like if they go with the blue route, they're just going to make everybody here slightly dissatisfied. And so people are going to play the game and be like, there's a ton here. And it all is kind of meh. And then they're going to just move on and give up. Whereas if you focus like the red game or the green game or the gray game, then you're golden, because you'll make these people very, very happy. They'll be 100% on board. They will certainly buy the game and be very happy about it. Whereas, you know, the people in the gray, like who like the stealth or like the parkour, they probably won't buy the game. But when they get their gray game, they'll be all the more excited. Right? Oh, strongish guy. You don't even have to pay me to say that. Sugar booger. Yeah. Or booger sugar. Yeah, I guess that works too. But I call Nikki sugar booger all the time. Because it's what Jimmy's dad in Jimmy Neutron said to his mom all the time. Oh, sugar booger. I love it. Yeah. Very flattering. She does not like it, but, you know. I'm my own man. I don't care. I do what I want. Catch me outside. How about that? Catch me outside. How about that? So this is what they're doing. They're moving from the blue circle to the green circle. There we go. Does that make sense? It could have just started with that, but here we are. Anyway, I'm gonna inhale my own crap. Okay, so the premise of what they're doing now makes sense. It makes sense that they want to move on from the jack of all trades, master of none approach they've had in recent years, because it's just frankly not working. While there are a lot of people that love Assassin's Creed Odyssey and Origins and Valhalla, the overwhelming majority of players have gotten burnt out on it, and that tied with the extreme expense of putting that game together, it just stops to make sense pretty quickly. It becomes inordinately expensive and, like, honestly prohibitively expensive. So they've decided to start working on this smaller game and project to try and appeal to the smaller group, make them happy while also saving on costs and appealing to a smaller, more niche group. Now, the company that's putting it together is Ubisoft Bordeaux. Okay, Ubisoft Bordeaux was founded in 2017 in, go figure, Bordeaux, France, and serves as primarily a support studio and collaborates with Annecy, Paris, and Montpellier studios on future titles. The studio is headed by Julien Maillot. I'm trying really hard right now. And Ubisoft Bordeaux has more than 300 employees as of May 2021. Now, since then, it appears that they were tasked with this project. Now, the game's director is a guy named, I think, Stefan. I'm not actually sure how to pronounce it. Let's just look up Stefan. Let's go to his LinkedIn. I think it's a he. And let's translate to English. There we go. So, as you can see, he's worked at Ubisoft for 17 years. Started on AC Mirage as creative director in June of 2021. So a year and 9 months. Which honestly, that's not that long. I don't know. It could be that that's when they honestly started it, but that's not crazy long. And what we've heard from, I believe, Jason Schreier, I think that's who we heard it from, is that this game originally started as a major DLC expansion for Assassin's Creed Valhalla. And so what it seems happened is that this guy came on in June of 21, which would seem about right, about a year into the post-launch support for Valhalla. And he came in and said, I mean, honestly, less than a year, right? Because wasn't it like September or November of 2020 that Valhalla came out, I think? So honestly, not that far into Valhalla's support. He came in, started working on AC Mirage, which is going to be an expansion. It kind of grew and turned into this standalone thing. By the time it comes out, it probably will have been in development for about 2 years. Now, that's pretty short for a game nowadays from a major studio like this. You're talking about a 2-year turnaround time. I mean, that's quick. The studio working on it primarily seems to be a team of about 300 people. Also very small. To put it in perspective, Assassin's Creed Valhalla had a team in the realm in terms of total people who touched that game. Thousands of developers worked on it. And you're talking about now shifting it. They'll still have the help of the rest of Ubisoft, but the primary dev team is way smaller than Assassin's Creed games normally have. So we're talking about a tiny game in comparison to what they've done before, which again could be great, but I think it's going to be such a major step down in scope from what they've previously done that it's going to be a little like shocking. It's going to be, oh geez. So Zerg, that's a very good question. Could it be, or it's going to be a Valhalla reskin with gameplay features taken out? That's the risk with this. Like, the only way this game works is if they're adding back in, hopefully, high quality parkour systems that they just stripped out of the game. You go back and play like Assassin's Creed Syndicate, Assassin's Creed Unity, and then you play Valhalla and you see just how simplified and dumbed down the parkour is nowadays. It's shocking. Like, it's like the system doesn't even really exist anymore. So if they add back in some of those systems somehow, that would be great. I would greatly appreciate that. If they really leaned into the social stealth, stuff like that, again, systems that they used to have that they stripped out, that could be awesome. And who knows, maybe that is easy, relatively at least easy to do, because they already had those systems, and it seems like they just didn't check the box in the engine for enabling that gameplay system. They just didn't check the box when they were developing Valhalla. So maybe they are able to add that stuff back in, kind of refocus. They get rid of the close hand-to-hand melee combat system, and they're just like, yeah, we're going to just do stealth. We're going to focus on stealth. You're not going to be able to just massacre people freely. It's going to be stealth focused. And if you assassinate somebody you're not supposed to, it desynchronizes you and you're screwed. Just watched all your Mervin puzzles and your recent Hogwarts Legacy review. I'm glad. I'm hopeful people actually, I haven't looked at like comments or ratings on the video yet. But hopefully people found it funny. I'm sure there's somebody that started typing in the comment section like, actually it's not Mervin puzzles, it's Merlin puzzles. Then as it goes on, it just gets more ridiculous. But anyway, the reason I'm saying this, the final stealth mission in Valhalla, they added a few things to parkour on it, a few places to hide, and discouraged combat. And I think, honestly, again, I wouldn't have a problem if they got, like, they just straight up removed the melee combat system, the hand-to-hand crazy fighting, and they stripped that out and made it so you can only really engage in stealth. If they did that, I would not actually have a problem, so long as the stealth is, like, decent. But at the very least, then they're being consistent. It's like, we're doing a stealth game. This is a stealth game. That's what we're doing. Easy peasy. Then I'm down. But it's this wishy-washy trying to do the close hand-to-hand combat with stealth that doesn't really work too well. I've been looking for those comments. My guess is, Zoran, if people did post those comments, that they deleted it once they got further in the video and realized that I was trolling them. Plus, it was pretty heavy-handed by the end of it. I called it like the Mormon puzzles and the Merton puzzle or something like that. I got a little aggressive with it. But this guy's an OG with Ubisoft again, 17 years, been there forever, and so he's an OG. Might actually be able to pull this off. Might not. He's previously been a content director for Wrath of the Druids, which this seems like a title they give somebody who's like heading up DLC for games, which again verifies and jives with what we've heard, which is Mirage started as a DLC and then turned into a full game. So I think that this probably starts, he started as a content director on it, and then they were like, yeah, it's going to be a full game, so you're a creative director now. He's like, oh, cool, sweet. So that's who's heading it up. Again, just if it really started development in June of 21, that's really not a lot of time to throw together a 20-hour game. They can probably do it, but again, I would fully expect this game to look identical to Valhalla in terms of graphical fidelity and assets and everything like that. I would not expect it to be that different. And UI is probably all going to be the same. Like this really seems like it could, and it has the potential to come out and be a very much it might come off as a cash grab, because it might come out and be like really not that different. Just Assassin's Creed Valhalla, but they removed melee combat. The parkour still sucks. The combat and stealth systems are still like really, really minimalistic and bland. I hope that's not the case, but that certainly is a possibility with only 2 years of development. If we go to the pre-order page, again, trying to find out more information on this, game info here. So they posted some screenshots. As you can see, it's not clear, to be honest. It's not clear if this is actually like a cinematic screenshot, if this is something taken in photo mode, or if this is like a sort of hybrid of concept art / cinematic. We don't really know. This screenshot looks to be like an actual screenshot, but again, it's just hard to tell. If you look at this to me, you look at like the texture quality, the lighting quality here, this looks to be in game. So I would say that this is probably in the game itself. This doesn't look that interesting, but who knows? It's a screenshot. It's a screenshot, whatever. But like this is all we've got. And bear in mind, like the reason that this is if we take a point at another weird thing. So the 2-year development cycle is weird. That's very quick. Maybe they can pull it off. Going from a DLC to a major full release, it's not super normal, but you know what? Weirder stuff has happened. Like you could even point to exactly Zerg, like Assassin's Creed Rogue. You could look at that as an example. Adrian, thanks for coming by, my friend. Appreciate you. But the second and perhaps biggest and weirdest thing is that this game is currently selling a collector's case or a collector's edition, and we haven't seen gameplay. We don't even know what this even looks like. And I've tried to find other games where they've released like full-on collector's editions before we even really know what the game is. And I can't think of another example. I'm sure there are some, but it's not normal. It's weird. It's weird. Other stuff like this actually looks kind of cool. You see characters. They've shown Basim, Roshan. They announced this. I think these both were revealed when the game first was announced. And since then, they haven't revealed anything else, which I would assume they were going to like have a schedule where once a month leading up to launch, they would be revealing characters and stuff. Kind of a fun idea. But since then, they haven't shown anything, and they've been very, very quiet. So it makes me wonder if they announced it too early. I really don't know. As for another really, really weird thing that happened, it was listed as adults only on the Xbox Store, specifically for intense violence, blood and gore, sexual themes, partial nudity, and real gambling. Now, I think this is, okay, let me be completely clear. This is a straight up conspiracy theory. Okay, there is no clear evidence of this. This is me speculating out my ass. Okay, I want to be clear about that. What I think probably happened because what the information we have is that Assassin's Creed was announced. They seemed confident about a release date in early 2023, which is why they released the information they did. They released the collector's edition, and they were ready to put it out and make this thing happen. In order to prevent leaks, they usually get a rating on the game as close to the announcement as they possibly can, so that, you know, they don't have information on the game needlessly floating around by people who might leak it. So just to be safe, they usually push that back to the last second. And what we know is that I did hear this by somebody who worked as an indie developer, and I asked them back when this first happened, I said, like, does Xbox default like ratings? Like, if you don't change anything, then it leaves the rating at a set point, and then you have to go back in and change it. Like, for me, for my YouTube video uploads, if I don't change anything, I have it set so my titles are just like, I have a big section of like X letters to tell me like fill this in, and then my description box has a template that it sits at, but it's not filled in yet. And by default, my videos are set to unlisted. So if I don't change anything, that's how it'll look. It'll plop in there because that's the default. I was like, is there something like that for the Xbox store when you're listing a game? Because maybe the default just got screwed up and it was listed as adults only. And then maybe like by default it lists these things and it checks the boxes, and some intern accidentally checked all the boxes and screwed up. And he said no. He said all of that stuff has to be manually inputted and it has to be approved. Multiple, like the manager of the project has to sign off on it. It's not something that just happens. So my speculation, conspiracy theory, again, that's not based in fact or reality, is that I think possibly what happened is that they sent Assassin's Creed Mirage off for review for a rating. They were waiting for the rating until the last possible moment in order to announce it. They got the rating at the last possible moment before their announcement and saw that it had been rated adults only. And in a moment of panic, some manager was like, we have to show the trailer. It's like our crowning thing. We have to show it. But like we have to go in there and we have to show the rating that we've currently received. So some manager was like, okay, just render it into the trailer. It'll be whatever. And they put it in there and then they published it and showed it off. And people saw that it was adults only, caused some outrage and concern among fans. And then they cut it out and said, nope, it's actually, that's not the final game's rating. We don't know how that happened. It's confusing. And they tried to divert. I think it was rated adults only for real gambling is the primary reason they say it was rated adults only, because in the stuff that they've shown, people have gone onto the ESRB's website and found that if you have real gambling in your game, it has to be rated adults only. You can have partial nudity, sexual themes, blood and gore, intense violence in M-rated games, but if you have real gambling, it has to be rated adults only. So I think something in this game constituted real gambling. And what we know is that Ubisoft has spent tens of millions of dollars developing a system called Ubisoft Quartz. If you haven't heard of this, I've talked about it a couple of times in videos. But what it is it's their marketplace for NFTs. Again, conspiracy theory. I think they probably had a system with Ubisoft Quartz in the game, because again, this was being developed primarily in like late 2021, early 2022, and they wanted to figure out like how to implement NFTs into this new game that they were going to put out. So they put this NFT thing in there, maybe with loot boxes. You could win NFTs that you could then sell on a secondary market. And according to the ESRB, that probably constituted real world gambling. And so they came back with an adults only thing. And then some managers signed off on it and it got put in the trailer. And then Yves Guillemot was like, what the hell are you doing? Sorry, everybody who's from France in here. And he shut it down and had him strip it out of the trailer within just a few hours of the showcase. And was like, nope, we're going to rework the game until that's not a thing because we can't release an adults only thing. Figure it out, cut it out, and we're just going to tell everybody we don't know how that happened. And we're going to delay the game and rework it until it functions without that stuff because we can't release an adults only. title. We just can't. And that's what I think happened. That's my personal theory, okay? I think they tried to put NFTs in it under their Ubisoft Quartz system. And when it got rated, it was rated as actual gambling because that's basically what it is. And so panicked, they tried to divert and obfuscate. And then they're like, we have to rework like the whole loot system, the in-game store, all of that stuff. We have to rework it. They delayed it indefinitely while they figured it out. And now the game is just sitting in limbo. That's what I think happened, because I cannot think of a single possible reason how you could ever have something like this happen on accident. I don't know how that happens. And nobody I've spoken to knows how that would happen, because Ubisoft's official position is that this was a big accident oopsie and that a mistake was made. Multiple people had to sign off on this going up, and specifically on the trailer, because bear in mind, this wasn't just on the Xbox page. Maybe a troll hacked into it, changed it, maybe and like Xbox misunderstood or something happened. I don't know. But on the trailer, in the video that they streamed, it said adults only on the stream. So in two places separate, there was an adults only rating. So somewhere along the line, an adults only rating was communicated to the marketing team. How does that happen? Like, adults only is extremely rare. Like, if it was, oh, we put T for teen in the trailer, but it's actually M, or vice versa, that I understand. I can explain that away. I can see how I like that type of thing could happen. That seems pretty mundane. But adults only doesn't just happen. Adults only is like if the manager comes down and is like, hey team, so that game that we have to put on the Xbox store, I got an adults only rating. That's something where everybody stops and is like, holy crap. Hi, babe. Oh, thank you. Oh, baby. Okay. Much love. Thank you. That's not something that just happens. That's something, if it happens, everybody freaks out. Yeah, exactly. The Last of Us 2 isn't even adults only. Exactly. If you hear that your game has been rated adults only, all hands on deck, we got to figure this out, because you can't sell your game in Best Buy. You can't sell it in GameStop. You can't sell it on Amazon, as far as I'm aware. You can technically still sell it on Steam, though usually Steam doesn't allow it to be posted. There's a lot of, it basically will completely nuke the game's chance of performing where it needs to. This, again, it's a conspiracy theory, but I think it adequately explains the weirdness surrounding this game. I don't think it was supposed to get delayed. I don't think it was supposed to have, this weird scandal surrounding it. I think they expected to announce it with the collector's edition, do all of this stuff, and then they realized that this wasn't going to work, so they had to freak it out. So they should absolutely avoid NFTs. Well, and I think when they were working on this game, they were in the middle of the craze. I mean, you guys remember just a year ago, NFTs were freaking everywhere. Everywhere. Like every streamer, every YouTuber, every celebrity, Tom, Dick, and Harry, Matt Damon, everybody. They were all promoting NFTs. It's the next big thing. And then, it kind of died out because people started getting teased so relentlessly for it that they were like, okay, no matter how nice the check is, I don't want to deal with the NFT crap. I just don't want to deal with it. And so they move on. And now, we've pretty much bullied NFTs out of existence. And, I find it thoroughly entertaining. But when this game was primarily being developed in the early stages in late 2021 and through 2022, NFTs were still like a common discussion point, especially in corporate boardrooms. Corporate executives really don't understand why NFTs are considered so problematic and so cringe. And so I think that they were probably pushing it, and then they pushed a little too hard. And as a result, the game was rated adults only because they probably had it again, because the whole promise of Ubisoft Quartz and the NFT system is that they wanted you to be able to buy an NFT, which is like a unique skin in Assassin's Creed, whatever. And they wanted it to be so that you could then resell that skin that you got for either in-game currency or Ubisoft currency or whatever. and then be able to trade it and profit from your collection of this thing. And it's just baffling again, this is total speculation. I haven't heard whispers that this is what happened. I haven't heard from anybody that this is what happened. But to me, this explains all of the weirdness surrounding AC Mirage, and I haven't heard anything that adequately explains it other than that something went wrong. Because, like, again, either they announced it too early, the game is actually really buggy, and they're freaking out trying to fix it in time for release this year, and then they also had this screw up with the adults only rating and releasing the collector's edition for sale too early, and like all of this really, really weird stuff happened. Or it was just that they were trying to get a quick cash grab, throw some NFTs in it, and then it kind of exploded in their face. I don't know. Alejandro, thank you. So basically they're trying to make Assassin's Creed a pyramid scheme. It seems like they might have tried, and then it didn't work, and then they started freaking out because the game wouldn't be available for sale anywhere, so they took it all down. Zerg, yeah, they think it adds value as a breakpoint player. I can tell you they already did it and just said players don't understand the concept. Yeah. You're just too stupid to understand it. It's actually really cool and good for you. Especially with UB backing off NFTs since September 2022. Yeah, I think that they are just... Ubisoft, again, is extremely desperate, and this is why I'm particularly worried about AC Mirage and all the future games that they have coming, because Ubisoft is more desperate than they ever have been before. Corporate profits and returns are bottoming out. They are losing money. In the latest earnings call, they said openly that they are now, like in the last 2 years, I think it was, they've lost $500 million on canceled and abandoned projects. $500 million they've wasted on stuff that will never release, that was just walked away from. A lot of that was the NFT project. They've just, like, they burned the money. $500 million. So that level of desperation, they are now at the point where they are freaking desperate to try and save their business. And desperation doesn't exactly tend to breed the best quality product. It doesn't usually drive high quality artwork, specifically in like businesses, to be clear. I think like a starving artist, yeah, maybe a starving artist can be successful and can make some amazing art. But you're talking about artists who are being managed by desperate businessmen, and desperate businessmen usually make irrational, crazy, stupid decisions. Yeah, they should have just donated $500 million. It's like I said in my video, the skeptical look thing. I was like, dude, they could have given me that money. I would have gotten rid of the $499,999,000, and I would have kept 1,000 for myself. Like, we all would have won. You would have gotten rid of your money, and you also would have nothing to show for it, but you also would have made me $1,000. Hell, I'll do it for 500. Like, just toss me that. It's just amazing to me. Like, $500 million on projects that didn't go anywhere. Ubisoft cinematic trailers always slap, though. Yeah, no, for real. I always love their trailers. They've done a great job. All the way back to like Assassin's Creed 1. I think they even had a cinematic trailer for that, and it still looked great. Louvre, there was also a report that Ubi was at some point working on 16 Battle Royale games at once. Yes, 16. That's ridiculous. I mean, again, it's just, they've been desperate for a while, but the perception I have of them is that they are so obsessed with trying to tap into the latest trend to milk that trend dry that they just cannot think for themselves at all. Like, they are the ultimate surfers. They really are. And in business, surfing is great for some groups, where you find the trend that's currently successful and doing well, and then you take that trend and you surf it all the way back to the beach where you can retire and hang out at the resort. However, companies like Rocksteady, Rockstar, even recently like EA, Epic Games, companies like that, they don't just ride the waves. They make their own waves. And then they ride them. But Ubisoft just casually comes up and it's like, well, we'll ride that one. But the wave's already 10 feet in front of them. And they're like, we'll figure it out. Just run faster. It'll be fine. And it's been like this for a decade. They just can't figure it out. And again, like, I don't think it's going to magically change because now they're desperate. I think it's probably going to get worse now that they're desperate. You know, nobody ever becomes more level-headed when they are starving. It's not how that works. So I'm very, very worried about the future of Assassin's Creed. I'm very worried about the future of Ubisoft. I think there's a ton of scary signs for the future. Even Avatar. Yeah, Avatar is also a freaking weird thing where we also haven't really seen anything, and that's allegedly coming later this year. It's supposed to be out last year. Like, it's supposed to be out this past winter. I said, I can't imagine that they delay Assassin's Creed or delay Avatar, that game, because they got to tie it to the movie release. So the only way they delay it is if it's freaking horrible and terribly broken. And then they delayed it. It's like, oh, well, I wonder why. I wonder why. That's a big delay. It's got to be pretty bad if they're delaying that. He took my thing.